Hi, my name is Roxanne Blackford, and this is my video for my profile on Chasing the Cure website. And I just want to go over all my fun things. So I was born on August 22nd, 1976 in Traverse City, Michigan. I was actually born a month late. And I'm going to try to do the best I can in describing the things from before birth and slightly after by what I know from my mother, because obviously I don't recall. So I will start with when my mother was pregnant for me. She was having a lot of really bad neurological issues, nerve issues actually. And she would wake up in the mornings and sometimes her whole right arm would be paralyzed, or her right leg, or her right side of her face. And this went on for quite some time until she eventually ended up having a bunch of dead nerves throughout the right side of her body and became 100% deaf in her right ear. She has to this day never regained hearing in that ear. She was 30 years old at the time, 29 to 30 when that started. The doctors at the time in 1975, 76 were working with her on it, but of course that was so long ago. They were trying to find out what they could. They thought maybe she had encephalopathy. Yeah, there we go. And but they never did figure that out. And near the end of her issues with her nerves, she was pregnant with me. And then shortly after getting pregnant with me, she also had a very bad kidney infection that she was in the hospital for a couple days with, and they had to treat her for that. And so there were obviously issues already before I was born. And then I was born about a month late because I was due in July, and I was born on August 22nd. And that is when my issues began. And from birth through today, I have had many problems. These are all my symptoms from when I was born till now, and diagnoses from birth till now. Most of this is supposed to be in order. That's not all in order, but I tried. The diagnoses are mostly from old medical records that I have, and I think I have most of them on here. Some of them are inaccurate, some of them are unsure. Most of them are not really official, because very few of them, if any, have actually been proven to be accurate. But I will tell you all these symptoms are accurate because I've lived with them my whole life. So I guess we'll start now with when I was born. So I was born with excessive body hair everywhere. I had very long fingernails and toenails and long hair at birth, partly because I was a month late probably. But there was hair all over me. And my parents actually referred to me as their gorilla baby. And out of the 5 kids that they had, 1 after me and 3 before me, I was the only one that weighed 8 pounds and 6 ounces. Back in the 70s, all my mom's kids weighed around 6 pounds when they were born. I was a lot bigger than they were, and again had the problems with the excessive. So there's that. And then when they took me home, they learned very quickly that I like to scream and not sleep. So my next symptom is can't sleep for any length of time. Again, this is attempted to be in order, but it's not going to be perfect. I was, according to my mother, I could scream for 12 hours straight and not sleep or do anything. When they would pick me up to hold me, I would tend to actually get worse. And she thought it was due to either pain or something. They never really knew. And when I did sleep, I usually only slept for about 1.5 minutes at a time. And she took me to the doctors a lot, but you know, it was early or late 70s, so you know, who knows. And the sleep problem is still a problem. I can sleep for more than 1.5 minutes at a time now, so that's nice. But I still don't get any sleep. I've had insomnia since birth. And I've also most likely had the same frontal headache since birth. I've had it for as long as I can remember, and I feel like it's always been there. I have never spent a single second of my life without a headache. So to answer your question, yes, I have a headache right now. I hate that question. And so it's a frontal headache. It can vary in degree and in pain levels. I like to say that my mild pain level's equivalent to when other people don't have a headache, and then it varies from there. Nothing has ever gotten rid of it. That's all I can tell you about that. I am, I just realized we're eternally exhausted and fatigued. I gotta have fun with this now and then. I've always been tired my whole life. I am not just tired, I am exhausted. And It has been going on since I was an infant because, as I stated already, I wasn't sleeping. I had issues with excessive drooling as a child, and I had issues with, I'm going to skip that for just a second, with fine motor skills and spatial relations. When I was about 2 years old, my developmental stages were so off, partly because I hadn't slept in 2 years, that the doctors all said that I needed to be put in an institution because they said I was mentally retarded and would never learn to speak or talk or do anything. Speak or talk, really. And so my mother refused, my father refused, and my mother ended up putting me in child guidance, and eventually I did get, to where I can function, sort of. And but that's how it was. So bad at that time with the drooling and the lack of walking, the lack of eye contact, the lack of pretty much all the developmental stuff by the age of 2, that I was diagnosed as mentally retarded, and I should have been institutionalized and just put away because they couldn't handle me. And again, they didn't do that. If they did, I probably never would have learned to talk because they probably would have drugged me. So then I had to go into that for a minute. The other thing here was my dreams are others' nightmares. When my dreams are not normal dreams. They're dreams of people trying to kill me. But to me, that's normal because that's the kind of dreams I've had my whole life. Some people would call those nightmares. I suppose technically they are, but I'm kind of desensitized to them by this point. I don't feel that I have night terrors. I don't, wake up screaming. I don't thrash around, to my knowledge, in my sleep or anything. So to me, they're just dreams. But when I was on different meds as a child to try to help me sleep, I would tell the doctors that the medication I was taking was to help me get rid of my nightmares. I don't remember this, but apparently I was having them back then. And spatial relations and motor skills were just bad. I would go to sit in a chair and I'd miss the chair and end up on the floor. And I did have a speech impediment. I have problems with my S's, C's, X's, whatever. My mom said I used to love to watch Sesame Street and Sammy the Snake. So I can do my S's now, but I went through a lot of years in elementary school of speech therapy so that I can finally talk correctly. Although if there's too many S's in a sentence, I still tend to have an issue with that. And, oh yes, always sad, angry, moody, dark, depressed. That's pretty much, that was from birth till today. I was a very cranky child. I mean, I remember when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I used to, I was just violent and angry, and I hated life. And at 8 years old, I remember saying that I wish I wasn't a human, and I wish I wasn't alive, and I wanted to be disconnected from the human race and be gone, and I hated everything. And I used to use the phrase D&D, not Dungeons and Dragons. It stood for death and destruction. And I kept asking, how could I disown my family? How could I disown people? And I mean, I was a very dark, angry person. Animals have always been a huge part of my life. They've kept me alive, I think, to this point. No, I'm not suicidal, but I did have issues that were stronger back then. My mom, when I was an infant, used to bring in baby sheep and things in the house and baby pigs to help me sleep for a few minutes. That was the only way she would get me to sleep sometimes, for even 5 minutes. So animals have always been a big part of my life. And I just don't like people. I mean, I'm fine now, but it's been an issue. Jared, go to your room. So along with all that, I've also had issues with anxiety from life. School is very difficult for me. I went through mainstream schooling. However, especially like by 5th or 6th grade, when you had to do group projects, I tended to get kicked out of the group projects because I got a little violent. I was in basketball for 5th and part of 6th grade. By 6th grade, my issues with anxiety and people and being touched and things were, I don't know if that's on there, were so bad that during practice one day for basketball, I actually got annoyed by who knows what at this point, and took the basketball and chucked it into the stomach of a fellow player, so got kicked off the team. But it wasn't uncommon for me to have little rampage fits because I was just so stressed out from being around people and just everything. I did get straight A's in school, however. The learning part was fine. It was the people around me part that was a problem, which jumps into the problems with dealing with social interactions. I only had 1 or 2 really good friends as a child. I didn't tend to go to parties or anything even then, and I still don't do a lot of that stuff now. Although now I've learned how to work with that better. Year-round allergies. I've had allergies since, I don't know when, probably birth. I'm not sure, but I am never breathing right. I'm allergic to all environmental things, all animals, whatever. And I am on Nasacort and Claritin, but it only helps so much. So in relation to that, I've had constant stuffy, runny nose. I've always got phlegm and mucus in my throat. Over the years, that's gotten worse. I used to love to sing. I still like to sing, but it's hard for me to sing anymore because there's always so much phlegm in my throat and I can't get rid of it because I've always got so much nasal drainage, even with my allergy meds. I can even remember when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old having issues with that. And I mean, it's been there forever. I also have to blow my nose after every time I eat or brush my teeth or anything. There's a diagnosis for that down here. And that's been like forever as well. And my random vocal and motor tics, that's a fun one to talk about. I've had that since I was at least 10, if not earlier. So, yeah, you'll need to be on me for this one. So for that, when I would be, if I'm really relaxed or if I get cold, tend to be my triggers for it. And my whole body will just sometimes jump. My motor tics are usually arms, sometimes my stomach muscles or my legs. My vocal tics include a high operatic singing note or yelping like a dog that just got stepped on, or sometimes I shout no, or sometimes I shout help me. It's really interesting. Fortunately, most of my vocal and motor tics are done at home because on the plus side with my other issues, I have too much anxiety to be relaxed enough out in the public to trigger one. So I guess it sort of works. But no, I do have things where I just kind of, if I try to do one, I'm not gonna do a vocal tic because it's too loud. But my motor tics sometimes look like this, or I'll just like clap, or I just do weird things. Sometimes I end up having my stomach muscles just kind of tighten up, and that one, I hate that one. That one hurts. They don't usually last too long. Sometimes I only have a couple. Sometimes I have like 10. It varies. But again, it's usually at home, and it's usually if I'm really relaxed or tired, or if I'm cold. Cold will trigger it, which means sometimes I'm screaming in my car. So that's fun. Sleep starts goes along with that. When I'm going to bed, a lot of times I'll do the whole body jumping sleep start thing. Sometimes it's just that. Sometimes it's everything. It's always fun. Along with that, one of my triggers is cold, and the nice thing about that is my body's always cold, so that's awesome. I feel like my body doesn't regulate temperature correctly because I tend to be cold all the time. I'm cold enough to the point that if I go to take a shower, my hot water heater is turned up higher than it should be because I have to take super hot showers, like I'm guessing hot tub temperature showers, because even regular amount or hot water temperature in a shower feels like ice cubes hitting me. So I take very, very hot showers just so I can take my shower, because if I'm cold, I can't function right. And to mess with that, always being cold, I sweat all the time. I don't know, it's part of my life. So I tend to sweat a lot, whether I'm cold, warm, or indifferent. I tend to sweat a lot, especially if I'm like talking to groups, but I'm not actually nervous, so I don't know why that is. My hands and feet are always cold. I have been told by my doctors that I do have good circulation, so it's not that. But I have to wear slippers on my feet at all times in the house, because otherwise my feet will swell up and get really red and really itchy, and it will last that way forever.
When you sweat, where do you sweat?
My neck, arms, sides, like kind of in my
But not
back.
like your forehead.
No, not my forehead really, but it's just like everywhere here. But like right now I'm sweating and my neck is doing that too. And with the hands and feet always being cold, when I go outside in the winter, if I'm only out there for a couple minutes, sometimes your hands get cold from being outside in the snow, obviously. And then, you know, your hands might swell up a little bit, get a little red and itchy just from being cold. When mine do that, they swell up and get super red, and it will last. I mean, I can be inside, my hands will be warm, and it will last for like hours before my hands stop itching and get back to the normal look and shape. I even remember that happening in elementary school. And even just a couple years ago, my dad was like, dude, why are your hands so red? I'm like, because I was outside for 10 minutes, and it's just part of my life. So my hands and feet have that issue. And sometimes my legs will even swell up and itch from the cold too and turn red. That's the next thing here. Also, especially in the winter, my hands like to get super, super dry and cracked, and like my entire hand will basically be dried blood. That's most likely the eczema, which is listed later. Oh yeah, the itching. So when I'm trying to sleep, I not only have my problems with my headache and other things I haven't gotten to yet, and my insomnia, excuse me, but I sleep on my side, and as I'm laying down to sleep, all of a sudden something will itch. It'll be my arm will have an itchy spot, or my leg, or my side. Something will itch. And it's almost always on the side I'm laying on, but not always. And then I scratch that part, make that better, and then something else will itch. And I spend like forever trying to fall asleep while I'm just random little spots are just itching for a minute or two. It's very annoying. Blurred vision, I have issues with that. Not all the time, but a lot of times things that are up close, especially looking from paper to computer screen, I have issues with blurriness, and every now and then if my dizziness gets bad enough, then it can affect my vision, but that's not very common. I never get like dizzy to the point of falling over. It's more of a just kind of a, I don't know how to say it. It's just an off dizziness where if I'm just standing there, I just kind of feel like, whoa. And I just more of a feeling in my head just kind of gets out of whack, but I don't usually fall over. I just get dizzy and I just kind of hold on to something. And if I'm talking, I will stop talking for a moment because I'm trying to get myself to where I can function and not be dizzy and fall over. I have learned since I was young, whenever I would take a nap in the middle of the day, even as a kid, my headache would get super bad when I got up. So I try not to sleep in the middle of the day anymore. Because even like as a kid in elementary school, when you're supposed to take naps, you know, you take naps, I'd get up, my headache was bad. It's that way whether I'm at home or somewhere else. My body gets really sore and my headache gets really worse. It's not the same when I wake up in the morning. My headache is just whatever it is when I wake up in the morning. But if I take a nap during the day, it's bad. Random, but as far as I don't know how long it's been going on, but for a lot of years, if I drink a glass of water or even a sip of water in the morning before I have any food, I get so violently ill that I am actually curled over in pain from my stomach and I feel like I'm going to throw up. I can drink water any time of the day other than first thing in the morning before I have food. Once I have food, I can drink it. And even late at night, if I haven't eaten anything in a while, I can still drink water and I'm fine. But first thing in the morning, if I drink it, I mean, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I get so sick that I literally can barely stand. The pain is just very intense and strong, and it's evil. I do get migraines sometimes. Maybe once a month or something, or if that's not an often thing, but I do get them enough that they do occasionally annoy me. However, when I get a migraine, they're usually in the evenings, which sucks, but if it's early enough in the day, I can take some Excedrin migraine, and it usually pulls the migraine symptoms away. Obviously, the headache is still there, but the circular migraine point and the sickness feeling and everything usually will go away from Excedrin migraine. Problem is that usually I get them in the evening and don't want to take Excedrin migraine at 8 o'clock at night. I've had issues with abnormal menstrual cycles for a lot of my life. Right now, they're actually not too bad, but for years, I never knew when they were going to start. I mean, one day it was the beginning of the month, the next time it was the middle, the next time it was beginning again, then it was the end. I mean, sometimes it was 3 weeks, sometimes it was 6. I mean, you know, I never knew. And I tend to have spotting for 2 or 3 days before I start. Then I have bleeding for however long that's going to last, and lots of heavy days, and then spotting for a few days before it just disappears. It's fun. And then Then there's my bladder issues. Basically I have to pee all the time. I mean, I've done voiding diaries before, and within a 24-hour period, I pee at least 20 times in 24 hours. And part of that's during sleep. Not while I'm sleeping, I don't pee, but I'm saying that's including sleep time. I usually get up once, maybe twice in the night to pee. But I've had times where I've been sitting on the toilet and I pee, and then I'm thinking about something, and then I don't know if I peed or not, because I still have that kind of urge to go, so it's hard to tell if I've gone sometimes. So that's another fun thing in my life. Random symptom, there are things I've included on here that may or may not relate to anything, but, don't want to leave things out. I have multiple cysts that are all over me, most of them on my left side. I've got one I've had for my whole life right here on my cheek. It's not very visible, but it's there. I've got one under my eyelid, one right over here. I've got several on my neck. I've got one on my shoulder blade that will go away, and then it will come back up, and then when it gets annoying enough, I squeeze all the nasty smelling goo out of it, then it goes away and comes back later, and we do that again. I've got a giant cyst-like thing on my leg. I've got a couple on my right side as well. And I feel like over the years I've been getting more of them. And then I actually had, that's not from my cyst, so that's something else. So anyway, they don't bother me. They're just there and they just keep appearing. So I just thought I'd throw it in there. My right jaw pops out of place and back in. I mean, I can actually make it do it at all times. I can just continually do it. My chiropractor looked into it and he was confused as to why it would pop itself out of place and then go back into place. I don't know. It's always done it. It just does. And then, okay, now for random, really weird symptoms that are not all the time, but they're really evil when they're there. So these are hard to describe. So I wrote on here, randomly a knee will not bend without pain for a few days. I know that doesn't make any sense, but so what would happen is if I go to bend down and like right literally on my knee, this just sharp, horrid, vile pain would shoot through my leg. And I would actually, if I started to bend and feel that happen, I would actually throw myself to the ground and stretch my leg out because the pain was so bad. And I've almost injured myself because I'd start to bend down and realize my knee was killing me. And it would be left leg, right leg, whichever one it felt like, not usually both. But they've both done it. And it's just throughout the years, it's like once every about 1 or 2 times a year, but it lasts for a few days. And it's just ungodly pain that, I mean, it will literally, I'll have to like go like this and bend down to get something and then go like this, because if it bends at all, I swear to God, I want to die. And again, that's just a weird, random, once in a blue moon thing, but I threw it on the board. To go along that, more frequently than that is my neck and shoulder stiffness. So I'm always having neck and shoulder pain. It's like all very stiff and sore here all the time. But there are times where it gets to the point where it's so bad that I literally won't be able to move my neck onto one side or the other. The left side seems to be worse a lot. It will just get so stiff and sore that if I go to move it, it's just stiff. It just won't move. It's like it's frozen. And then that lasts for a few days usually before that goes away. And that is more frequent. That happens quite a bit actually. See, now this is why I wanted to go over this side first. So some other random symptoms, actually, some of these have diagnoses. The right side of my head will get super itchy and red and angry. We actually, for a while, I had to shave the under hair on the right side of my head in order to get treatment on it to get better. It hasn't bugged me for a while, thank goodness. Also, the right side of my neck will get itchy and red, and I'll get rashes on there. They're actually 2 separate things that I'll discuss more over here, so I'm not going to spend much time on those. Pregnancy. Okay, so I've been pregnant twice. The second pregnancy, I had a miscarriage about within the first, like 8 weeks. So there's not much to say on that one. The first pregnancy was full term, had vaginal birth. I have my son who is extremely autistic. He's 22 years old now. I had him when I turned 21. He was born on September 17th of 1997. I turned 21 about 3 weeks before I gave birth to him. He was born on his due date. Oddly enough, he was also 8 pounds and 6 ounces and 21 inches long, which was my birth weight and length. So that was kind of cool. In regards to the pregnancy, both pregnancies, even though the one was very short term, literally from the day after conception, I started vomiting every day through my pregnancy. I can tell you the exact date of conception for both pregnancies because of throwing up. And I would throw up at least once or twice a day, minimum, every day for 10 months with the first pregnancy. I threw up twice while in labor, so I literally threw up from the day after conception through labor, multiple times a day. I was very pale. I'm already pale enough, but I was super pale. And I had red blotches all over my body, well, mostly my head and my neck, because I'd get, the blood vessels would break out and stuff from the throwing up, which is what I get when I vomit. So I looked great during my pregnancy. And even with the second pregnancy, before the miscarriage, literally from the day after conception until everything happened, I was throwing up every day. I was very ill. My body does not like pregnancy at all. And I guess we're going into that area next anyway. I have along the vaginal area and stuff, there's a lot of itchy skin things going on. Some of it's been dealt with, some of it, I don't know. And then I also have a lot of hemorrhoid issues and some rectal bumps and itching things. I have to, if I don't treat these areas, they get really annoying. And then we're jumping to a completely different area here. Okay. Now we're going into muscle weakness. And I have recently discovered that my bladder muscle is also weak and doesn't really do a lot of help, doesn't really have its spasm thing to push and stuff. When I'm using the bathroom, I have to use my stomach muscles to urinate. By my muscles, I mean like everything. My arms, my legs, back, whatever, muscles. All the muscles in the body are wussy and tired and broken. Probably because I haven't slept in 43 years. But that is an issue that's been going on for at least 15 or 20 years probably, if not more. Actually, even a senior in high school back in 1990, well, in the 90s, before being a senior, I remember standing in line for lunch, and our lunch lines would be long, and sometimes everybody would be stopped for a while. I would literally sit on the dirty, nasty floor because I was just too tired to stand. If I stood up too long, I got dizzy and kind of almost fell over, and my muscles were just too weak. Things that happen because of my muscle weakness are when I walk and pause. So a lot of times when I walk, I actually walk with a limp. It's kind of, because my leg will give out, and so I don't think there's any way to get that really on camera because there's not much space here. But I tend to walk with a limp. I kind of look like Quasimodo a little bit when I walk. And I also sometimes have to use my arms to keep me up. Sometimes I have to have my arms on a wall when I walk because my leg will give out so badly. Problem is my arms tend to give out too, so that makes it fun. Walking up and down stairs is excruciatingly painful on my legs. It's mostly my calves that are troubled by that. And my hands get weak as well and tend not to be able to grasp things very easily. And if I'm really tired, it makes it all worse. So that's fun. Yeah, inclines hurt my legs. Seriously, it feels like there's a metal vice grip, just crushing my legs as I'm walking upstairs. It sucks. And I sometimes have to actually stop and breathe for a minute because it hurts so bad. And trying to do any exercise is very painful and debilitating. I can sometimes do a little bit here and there, but I used to try to exercise quite a bit when I was younger or in my 20s, but it was painful and I kind of had to stop doing it. Constant muscle pain everywhere. I mean everywhere, and I mean constant, especially my lower back and my neck and my shoulders, but I'm in pain all the time. Sometimes just standing around can cause shooting pain or standing up. Oh, and when I go to stand up, I usually have to use my arms to lift myself up because my legs and arms together have to help me stand because I don't have much strength. Doing dishes, if I go to do my dishes, literally within 30 seconds of standing there doing dishes, sharp, hot, shooting pain will just like radiate throughout my back, and that pain will stay there the entire time I'm doing dishes. It hurts really bad, but that's what happens when I stand for 30 seconds doing something. Yeah, so that's fun. So my fiery, sharp pain shooting through my body can usually only happens on my back, but sometimes it just randomly happens other places. When I get up in the mornings, my body tends to be more stiff and sore than it was when I went to bed. And trust me, when I go to bed, it's already bad. This one I'm not going to discuss a great deal on camera, but it is something I can discuss with a professional if they want to. So I feel I have high libido issues. The only thing I will discuss is that I actually haven't been with anyone in over 15 years. So I haven't actually had any sexual anything with anybody, but it's still an issue. And that's all I'm putting on camera. I tend to get sick when I'm having my menstrual cycle, usually during my PMS time. My immune system's already crappy as it is. So a lot of times right before I get ready to start my cycle, I tend to get colds or flus or things because my body hates me. And then this is also actually usually a PMS thing as well, but it happens other times as well. So if I get really weak and tired, which again, about 2 days a month right during my PMS time, so right before I'm starting, sometimes it gets super bad. Or if I have a really bad cold or flu or something, it will get extreme. My whole body is so weak that I literally can't do anything, even talk. I can talk, but it's very slow. And basically I sound like I'm a drunk person.
It takes a lot of concentration.
It does. It takes everything out of me. I mean, it takes so much concentration and energy just to say a couple words that if people ask me to repeat it, I just sigh and glare at them if they're in front of me. Like, I'm not talking anymore. I literally sound drunk. Let's see if I was going to do it real quick here. Standing and walking is worse than normal during that time. But my speech, it's slurred and slow. If I said something like, here, I have a loss of hope. So I'd be like, I have a loss of hope. That is literally how I talk when it gets that bad. So I do not try to talk to people during that time. If I'm on the phone with my mother, she understands and she usually will let me stop talking. But that is how I speak once in a while. It's not all the time, but if my weakness gets bad enough, I barely can talk, let alone move or do anything else, which is great when you have a 22-year-old autistic child living in your house that's solely dependent on you and your cats, by the way, also. So it's great when that happens. Loss of hope and desires. It's been an issue throughout my life with my depression and things. However, over the last few years, I made this separate from the whole sad, angry, moody thing because it is separate. Because, I used to plan in high school, I was going to go to college and I was going to do stuff with wildlife management. I was going to write, learn languages, all these things. None of which I've done. None of which I even care anymore. I've gotten to the point where, I don't have any, I don't do any of my writing anymore. I still sing around the house because it keeps me alive. Actually, sometimes I feel like my body's like, I have to sing or make noise just to like walk. It's a weird thing. But anyway, I didn't put that on here because it's really strange. But anyway, I really am, my depression has gotten to the point, I think a lot of it stems to I almost can't care. Because if I care, it's more difficult to deal with everything. I used to go to church a lot. My religion is very important to me. And, it's just, but now I haven't really gone to church hardly at all in years. I I just can't care about things, because if I care, I can't function at all. It's hard enough to function now. So I've just kind of, see, inability to function, next thing. It's hard to function. I don't sleep. I have muscle issues. I have depression issues. I have life issues. I have times when I literally cannot move. I have times when I'm sitting on my couch at home, and because of my bladder issue, I have to get up to go use the bathroom, and I'll have to pee like really, really badly, and I can't get my body to move. And so I will just lay on the couch for at least a half an hour or so before I can finally get the strength up to get up and go use the bathroom, which by that point my bladder's screaming at me, so that's fun too. And also when I come home from work, I pull in the garage and I will sit in my car sometimes for 3 or 4 minutes before I can actually open the door and get out of the car, just because my body's just tired and my muscles are weak and I just can't move. So it's not like an all the time thing, but it's an annoying thing. I have had weight issues ever since my second pregnancy. When I had my miscarriage, then I had to have a DNC done. That was in January of 2000. After I had my son Jarob, I did go back down to 136 pounds. I was, fine with weight and everything, looked fine. And then after my miscarriage, ever since then, I've had weight issues. And I've also was getting older too, and I don't eat great. So there's weight issues stem from many things. Part of it is lack of proper eating. Part of that is because I'm too tired to make food. But I feel like the weight issues may also be a possible symptom of things as well. Again, it could be the other stuff. I think it's kind of everything. I currently am down in weight, down to 145 pounds, but that's after being on a diet for over a year and a half. I lost over 60 pounds. I was at 205 pounds when I started my diet a year and a half ago. So this is the lowest I've been. 145 is the lowest I've been in, since Jared was born, pretty much, because I got into the 150s a few years ago, but this is my lowest weight I've been at in over 20 years. Oh, my words. Yeah, that's fun. So sometimes I say the wrong word, but it's usually, or the wrong word or phrase, but it's usually related to what I'm trying to say. A lot of times it's with my son, and it's time for him to go sit down to eat lunch. And, and sometimes I'll say, go sit on the potty. And what I really meant was sit at the table. And other times when I go to wash him up, I'll say, give me your hand. And I'll say, give me your foot. And obviously I don't want his foot. I know when I say the words and I fix them, but they just come out wrong. And it's actually been going on for a little bit here and there. It's not all the time, but it's annoying. It's getting worse over the last couple years, but it's actually happened a little bit here and there for several years where I say something, went to say one thing and it was like something else, but it was usually related to whatever I was trying to say. I have, along with my bladder issues, I have issues with my bowels. I have constipation issues, or I find it hard to go sometimes. I tend to have to work a lot harder at getting having a bowel movement, but then sometimes it's really the other extreme. It just kind of goes back and forth, and I never really know what's going on. I also have problems with heartburn, and I get really bad acid reflux, which I'm taking stuff for it, and it's helping a bit, but I find it's not working a full 24 hours. I need to take it twice a day. I either have really bad acid reflux and or upset stomach, sometimes together, sometimes it's just one or the other. Then over the last several months or so, I've been having really bad issues with gas issues, and I've really been flatulent, like a lot more than I usually am, and it smells really bad sometimes. So those are most of the issues I could come up with. Again, I try to put these in order of when they started. Some things, however, I'm not really sure how long they've been going on, so it was hard to really do. And also, a lot of the stuff here at the bottom were things I threw on when I forgot to put them on earlier, so not everything is in order, but it gives a little bit of a date range as far as my symptoms. And then, so from there, we go to what I've been diagnosed with over the years. Again, this is sort of in order. And I'm just going on old medical records and things that I have. I have medical records from 1980 all the way till today. However, I don't have all my medical records. Not from everybody. You know, I have most of them, but I'm missing a few. But from what I've gathered, here are my symptoms. So when I was 4 or 3.5 years old, so you're talking early 1980 or mid 1980s, I was diagnosed with sleep disturbance. Yeah, like that's a diagnosis. That's because I never slept. We already went over that, so I don't know, whatever. One doctor that he had, that was the cat did that. One doctor that my doctor at the time did a conference call with, thought I might have had possible mild encephalopathy. It's hard for me to say. But as to my knowledge, there was never any further testing done on that, so I have no idea. By 1988, they said I had adjustment reaction temperament issues. Again, angry, moody, and that I had attention deficit disorder with temperament features. 1990, I was misdiagnosed as bipolar. I don't want to talk about that right now. But I'm going to have a little rant for a minute because I have to on that one. So, you'll see down here, I have been diagnosed with Asperger's. That's the correct diagnosis. The problem is bipolar and Asperger's have way too many of the main features in common. And the problem is back in 1990, this up here in northern Michigan, this was not researched or dealt with at all. So they missed a lot of the side symptoms and just put me down as bipolar disorder. The rant about that is that I spent 3 years on medications because of that. And I almost did not graduate from high school because the medications did such horrible things to me. They put me on everything, SSRIs mostly, and one of them almost killed me, literally. I was on lithium for a couple months. I gained 55 pounds in 2 months. I had to drop out of school because I couldn't even, if I looked at something that said 1 + 1 = I didn't even know what I was looking at or what was going on. My concentration level was shot. And I went from straight A's to literally getting E's and F's. And then I had a mental breakdown because of that. So, yeah, it was fun. Needless to say, I'm not a fan of medications of that type anymore, but I'm actually on Prestique right now, so, you know, whatever. So that was a very bad period of my life. I literally stopped cold turkey all my antidepressants. Oh, I stopped lithium, like, you know, shortly after we started it. But, whatever I was on at the end of my 11th grade year, I literally stopped taking all medications cold turkey the summer before 12th grade and was able to graduate high school on time because I wasn't on meds anymore. We're stopping for a moment. So I had to take an extra class after school and take a correspondence class and do a lot of things my senior year in order to graduate on time because I missed so much school between 10th and 11th grade because of the medications I was on. And because I was no longer on any medication, I was able to function enough, and even without sleep, to get all my classes done, get straight A's. I had to take boring classes because originally in 9th grade I started in all honors classes, and because I didn't take my honors classes in 10th or 11th grade, I had to take simple classes. But before medications, I was getting straight A's and in honors classes, and in French and Spanish class, and all these things, which I had to stop all of that because I couldn't do any of it with the medications. So I took basic courses to graduate on time and was able to because I had stopped all my meds. Fortunately, I did not have any side effects from the lack of weaning off things, but that was good. But so moving on from that. So another thing they thought about with, the reason I started seeing doctors and things when they diagnosed me with this was because of my headache, and it was bugging me so much. So they were working on trying to figure out what was causing my headache. Surprise, surprise, they didn't find out. So they put me with probable myoclonus and history of chronic headache. Those symptoms have been discussed. Depressive disorder, not otherwise specified, atypical depression, developmental articulation disorder, that I'm guessing goes with my speech problems, I don't know. This is a fun one. In 1993, I was diagnosed with atypical depression with psychosis related to organic brain disease. What the fuck does that even mean? So, I was depressed. I've had depression my whole life. I got that. 1997, right after my son was born, I had postpartum depression. I agree with that one. That was real. I had that. I tried to take Prozac for a little bit after my son was born. That did not work. I literally could not pick up a pen without throwing it across the room because my hands were shaking so bad from taking Prozac. I found that a lot of SSRIs or other medications, they affect my muscle issues that I already have. They amplify them. Gabapentin was supposed to help my muscle spasms calm down. It turned me into a Mexican jumping bean. All I did was spasm all the time. So yeah, so that's one of my health issues that tends to get amplified by meds. And not even the same kind of meds always. So I don't know. 1999, I was not technically, but sort of diagnosed as Asperger's syndrome. The only reason I got that was because my son is severely autistic, and he was seeing a school psychologist at the age of 2 to get, the psychology diagnosis from the school to get him into all the early programs. And that is actually who talked to us about Asperger's, and that is when I learned that I actually do have Asperger's. My mother went with me to that appointment and told him about my life history. That's how that came. All right, in 2001, I was diagnosed with interstitial cystitis for my bladder issues. However, I don't have any pelvic pain or any of the other stuff associated with it. And later on, a few years or somewhere in this range, I was actually re-diagnosed with overactive bladder instead of that. I tend to agree with this one more, but whatever, nobody knows anything. I've been diagnosed with seasonal allergies, chronic headaches, aphasia. Okay, second rant. I'll try to make it quick because I know this video has already been like 7 years long. It really annoys me when you try to explain things to your doctors and they either don't believe you, they think you're making things up, they think you're over exaggerating. Not saying all doctors do it, I'm just saying it happens. And I have found many of my medical records over the years where I try to say, I've had the same headache since birth. It's always been there. It's the same one. And they go, oh, so you get lots of headaches? I say, no, I've had the same headache. It's always been there. I've never spent a millisecond of my life without a headache. And you look at my medical notes that they wrote and they'll say, she suffers from daily chronic headaches, or she suffers from lots of headaches. And it just really pisses me off when they don't believe you when you know what your own symptoms are. So, moving on. And diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, which goes with the constipation issues and things, hemorrhoids, non-allergic rhinitis or vasomotor rhinitis. This is the newer term, I guess. That's my having to blow my nose after I eat or brush my teeth or anything. I, to my knowledge, have never spent a day in my life where I haven't used Kleenex to blow my nose. Lichen simplex crinitis of perineum, that goes with the genital itching things. Allergic rhinitis, allergies. Sleep apnea, which, sleep apnea goes along with the other issues. When I am thinner, like right now at 145, it's more of a mild sleep apnea because weight loss obviously helps with it, but it's still there. Restless leg syndrome. Okay, that's real and separate from my other movement disorder thing. I did not write it as a symptom because, quite honestly, I think I forgot because the list was already long. So that's just my legs, and unlike the vocal motor tics that usually only last for a minute or two here and there, when that kicks in, it lasts for quite a while, and it's actually more annoying in some ways. It won't go away. If I walk around, it tends to stop. Sometimes if I take Tylenol, it will calm down later, but that's really annoying. Ulcerative colitis with the urinary frequency. I don't remember ever being diagnosed with that, so I have no idea. 2008, diagnosed with mood disorder. Yes, I'm a female adult that suffered from insomnia and depression my whole life. That's one way to put it. I'm guessing they were probably just thinking crazy bitch and they wrote that instead. 2009, seasonal affective disorder. My depression is depression year round, but I do have it where season changes around March and October. I tend to be way worse. I will have about a month or so where my depression and Just hating everything, and stuff gets super bad around the time that spring starts and fall starts, as the lack of sun to more sun and more sun to less sun, and it's bad. I still work and everything during that time. I just have to really bite my tongue a lot more because I'm really moody. Then I've got psoriasis and eczema have been diagnosed. Those were my, the right side of my head itching was the psoriasis, and my neck is where I get my eczema. And then also my dry hands tend to get as eczema as well. They also said perniosis, which is a cold and heat related thing with skin. I'm not sure how accurate that is because I really only have the cold side of that, where my hands get all red and itchy that I described earlier. So I have no idea if that's actually there. Chronic insomnia, well, no crap. Tourette's was actually diagnosed, may or may not be correct. Malaise and fatigue, really? Okay. That's just an observation that any human being on the planet can make just by looking at me. I mean, hello, I have these bags that have taken 43 years to grow. I look like a bloodhound, but, and I also have usually a glassy, half-dead look in my eyes because I'm tired. Abnormal involuntary movements is another way of saying we don't know what's wrong with her. That goes with the Tourette's and the restless leg and everything else. Headache, yep. Generalized muscle weakness, yep. That's also along with the fibromyalgia, which they diagnosed me with. I'm sorry, not that fibromyalgia is not real, and not that there aren't medications that can help people with the chronic muscle pain and things, but to me that's just a blanket term for they hurt. We don't know why. Whatever. So lymphadenitis acute. I probably said that wrong, but that was fun. They gave me Enbrel for that, and I was right after starting on the Enbrel injections is when I ended up with a lymph node on my right side of my neck that got so bad that it actually died. And I also got the flu really bad and got really sick.
They didn't give you Enbrel for that. Enbrel caused that.
They gave me Enbrel for...
And then it caused that.
Well, they gave it to me for I think my skin condition or something.
For eczema.
Yeah, okay, that's probably what it was, for the eczema.
And then you got the
Then I got this
lymphadenitis.
because, thank you, she's a nurse, so that's why she's recording. Plus, she's the one to do it for free. So then, so I ended up having to have my lymph node removed, and then had to pack the area for a while and stuff. That was really fun. So Enbrel made me very sick, killed off a lymph node in my neck. It was a great time had by all. Tic disorder, also, again, there's the Tourette's diagnosis here too, so it's all the same. Fibromyalgia. Pervasive developmental disorder, I'm thinking that's part of the autism thing. In 2015, I did go down to Cleveland Clinic in Ohio, obviously Cleveland, but I saw 3 different specialists there. Unfortunately, they would only see me for one issue each, when my problem is I feel like a lot of these are actually interconnected to something else. But doctors won't look at it that way. One of the Cleveland Clinic doctors said that he didn't think I had Tourette's. He thought I had epileptic phenomenology with possible myoclonus. And I'm like, sure. I also have astigmatism, which is part of my blurred vision issue. Not all of it though, but I do have vision issues near and far from my astigmatism. Issues with acid reflux and my overactive bladder thing, which I believe is more accurate. It may not be accurate, but I think it's more accurate than interstitial cystitis. So these are all the things I've been diagnosed with over the years. First and foremost, that's wrong, so that's going away. I do not have bipolar disorder. The reason that this Asperger's syndrome is highlighted in purple and has the little star by it is out of everything on this list, that I know for a fact is real and its own thing. It is a primary symptom I have had since birth. Everything else is debatable. I did have postpartum depression, but that's not like a lifelong thing. That was just a temporary thing. I do agree that I have psoriasis and eczema, which have been there for a long time. But with the exception of Asperger's syndrome, any single thing on this board could be a symptom of some other unknown primary issue. I will say though, because I have Asperger's, there are some other issues that are comorbid diseases or just related in general to Asperger's. So for instance, I gotta find them though. My Tourette's or tic disorder, and abnormal involuntary movements are all like the same thing. Tourette's is a comorbid issue with Asperger's. My insomnia is actually a common thing with autism, is lack of sleep. Can't find insomnia, but I can find this one. And I know it's on here. And so while they may be their own things, they are possibly related to that. But the rest of it, well, the pervasive developmental disorder, that's probably Asperger's right there. Chronic insomnia right there. So those things are all likely related to the Asperger's. However, again, the rest of it, I have no idea. Some of my symptoms are obviously Asperger's symptoms, such as my social skill problems, my fine motor skills, my spatial relations. The not sleeping is, again, sort of semi-related to it. So
go into what bothers you the most, the top 3 that bother you the most.
Yes. So again, I don't know if some of these are actually secondary issues rather than primary, because it seems to be an awful lot for primary issues. So of all of this whole thing that is my life of the last 43 years, the 3 things that are the Asperger's, I'm fine with. I live with that. I've got that down. I don't care about that. It's made me a quirky, fun person, so I'm fine with that. The 3 worst things are going to be my insomnia, my chronic headache, and my bladder conditions. And on top of those 3, you've got the depression that just gets worse because of those 3, and it's there anyway. So not being able to figure out what has the root cause of my headache, and getting any help with it has been very difficult. I mean, I've learned to live with it, obviously, but at the same time, it's so much pain in my head all the time. I don't get to do a lot of things. I do work. I work through it. I get home and I'm just too tired because of my insomnia. I haven't slept really at all. I think I slept in my whole 43 years. I know of one night where I actually slept through the night and slept once in 43 years that I can recall. And it was such an odd thing that I actually can remember doing that. Actually, it was from a medication. But anyway.
And we know how much lack of sleep causes psychological.
Oh yeah, it makes everything worse.
Motor issues. And
it makes everything worse. And then because everything gets worse, especially my muscle weakness and all that, and my chronic pain and everything else, those get worse from lack of sleep, which then make it harder to sleep because I'm already not sleeping because I'm not sleeping, and then I'm not sleeping because I have to pee because my body hurts because my head's worse. Yeah, and it's very difficult to get through the day when you can barely stand because I'm not sleeping. I have to pee every 15 minutes. Some days I feel like I should just live in the bathroom. Oh my word, if I get a cold or a flu, I basically do live in the bathroom. Just have to pee every 3 seconds because I have to pee even worse when I'm sick. I hate it. And so between not sleeping and not being, I've literally had physical pain since birth, to my knowledge. I have never lived a second of my life without physical pain. And I could deal with it better if I could sleep or if, I could function somewhat. And part of my problem is I tell doctors everything that's wrong. And they don't know what to do for me because there's way too many groups up here. You've got things with neurology, you've got things with sleep doctors, you've got things with internal medicine doctors, things with immunologists, things with ENTs, and so nobody wants to try to piece any of it together because nobody's positive if it is pieced together, although I think some of it is. I think there's an underlying issue for at least some of this. I think some of these diagnoses actually belong over here. But that's just my opinion. But until I can get to the point where I can sleep, I don't know how much longer I can keep going. My depression has gotten so bad because I'm so tired that I get through work, I get home, and I have a son that needs me. He's autistic and he can't be left alone, and I have to feed him, I have to give him his baths, I have to do like all the stuff for him, and I can barely do it. I mean, sometimes he doesn't get fed till almost 10 o'clock at night because I just can't stand up, and I have to do dishes, and in order to feed us sometimes, because all the dishes are dirty, but I'm too tired to do dishes. So I start to do dishes, I get like 5 dishes done, and then a few days later I'm doing 5 dishes again because I just can't stand there long enough to do them. Not because of the pain that shoots through my back, but because I'm just too tired. And it takes so much energy for me to just be able to stand up in the morning and then go to work, that I use every ounce of energy I don't even have to get through the work day, that by the time I get home, there's nothing left. And I haven't been on a date in over 15 years. I don't go out and do things. I don't live. I exist. I exist in pain and depression and fatigue and needing to pee every 5 minutes. And that's all I've done for like the last 20 years, is just exist. I don't have a life. I honestly almost don't care if I have a life at this point. Most days I want to just not wake up. I'm hoping one day not to wake up, because then I will sleep forever and be done. And I literally, when I get up in the morning, when my pain is really bad and I get weak and I get dizzy, I'm always, every day I have the fear that like, that's going to be the day that I'm just going to like pass out or end up in the hospital because I just fall over somewhere. And honestly, in the back of my head, I'm almost actually hoping for that day so that I could just go do nothing, because I'm just tired and I just want to function again. So that's why I'm doing this video, is because someday I'd like to get something worked on so I can function. And unfortunately, the doctors see me as a person that has a job, takes care of my kid, and can joke around about my problems. So I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me because all the tests come back fine. I don't have Chiari malformation. I don't have lupus. I don't have MS. I don't have every other flippin' thing they've tested me for. Everything comes back fine. All my tests are fine. So I'm fine, but I'm not. I'm just a person that exists, does literally the bare minimum. My house is trashed. I'm never clean. I don't have the energy to clean. I barely have the energy to get dressed in the morning. And so that's why I wanted to make this video, in hopes that maybe someday somebody could help me at least figure out 1 or 2 things that I can get treated for. Because every time they try to treat me for things individually on this list, none of the treatments help. They have tried giving me things for insomnia. They've tried giving me things for chronic muscle pain. They've tried giving me things for headache. They've tried giving me things for spasms, whatever it is, bladder issues, all of that. And nothing other than my psoriasis and eczema medication works. So that's good. But otherwise, none of my medications have ever worked. And that's one of the reasons I believe that there may be another underlying issue that's causing these, is more of a secondary issue. So long story, really long. That's my video, and I just like to take a quick moment to thank all the people involved in Chasing the Cure. Even if you can't help me, I can see that you're able to help a lot of other people and get doctors together and help them to learn that sometimes they just need to work together in different departments and try to figure out what's wrong with people. So thanks for your time.